Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us on KGW for this breaking news update. I'm Stephanie Domerat. Portland Police Chief Bob Day is about to hold a press conference regarding yesterday's shooting in Southeast Portland, where a federal agent shot two people that the feds say have ties to a Venezuelan gang. That press conference is getting set up right now. Let's see if we can get a shot of the room. Let's listen in.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I recently read the Declaration of Independence for the first time, and this great document we're going to celebrate 250 years this July. And there's that commonly referred to line about certain inalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But the line that immediately follows what struck me as a seasoned law enforcement professional, and it says that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. And that is really a passion of mine and of the Portland Police Bureau, that we understand that we derive our powers from the consent of the governed, that Portlanders have expressed to us how they desire to be policed and how they desire to interact with their local law enforcement. That will always continue to be a priority of mine. And we have done that remarkably over the last year, particularly in the area of public order. I'm so tremendously proud of the way that we have all showed up, both our community, sometimes in the tens of thousands, or maybe minor protests, and even this week with the events in Minneapolis that certainly concerns us and raised the tension and the fear and the angst. And we had a demonstration that evening, and then the demonstrations last night and the public order events that are happening today and throughout the weekend. I have high expectations that we will continue to be able to express our dissent in a way that demonstrates our commitment to showing how we want to be governed. And that means doing so in a way that is calm or is peaceful or is nonviolent, whatever the terminology that you choose to use, but an expectation that these public order events can be held and participated in by all, and that they are a place of safety for all, including our public officials and our first responders. Last night, we had a couple of events that occurred, one that was across the street here at City Hall, several hundred participants, and then we also had several hundred down at the facility in South Waterfront. We, along with our partners from the Oregon State Police, were present down at South Waterfront last night. We did see an increased amount of energy and intensity, which we anticipated, given the events of yesterday and on the heels of Minneapolis, and appropriately so. I understand Portlanders' concern. I understand Portlanders' fear and frustration. I believe there is legitimacy to that, and we anticipated that there would be an increased amount of energy. Historically, this past year in our public order events, through dialogue, officers, through announcements, and through cooperation, we've been able to achieve results and minimize arrests and minimize conflict. Last night, there were some who chose not to follow the direction of the officers, and we were required to make a couple of arrests, 6 actual arrests for disorderly conduct. We had a couple of officers that were slightly injured. There was one force event not involving munitions, just a force event that will be thoroughly investigated and reviewed through our after-action process. But overall, considering the heightened amount of energy and concern last night, I'm still very grateful for the overall event and the participation, and in looking forward to the weekend where we can continue to demonstrate our ability to express those First Amendment rights. We will continue to be challenged with all of the various influences that are coming upon us, but I'm asking and encouraging Portlanders to not lose the credibility that we have built up, not only locally but nationally. We'll tell you that police chiefs from around the country and I have talked about how Portland is managing, and I'm hopeful that although the concern is high, that we will have a peaceful but robust and active weekend. We encourage that participation. I was asked yesterday in the press conference about the Tren de Aragua group, also known as TDA. At that time, I did not have pertinent information as to their potential role or involvement here in the city. Doing some more digging, sought some more information. Once the names of the people who were shot yesterday by the federal officers came out, we were able to do some investigating on our part to see if there was any nexus or relationship with the Portland Police Bureau or regional partners. I can confirm, first and foremost, that these two individuals are in stable condition. They are still hospitalized. They are in custody of the federal law enforcement, but grateful that they are appear to be on the road to recovery, and I'm grateful for that. They do have some nexus to involvement with TDA. We can confirm that. We know that we had a shooting in Northeast Portland in July of this year, and the victim in that shooting was self-identified as a Venezuelan immigrant who informed us that the suspects in that shooting were associated with TDA. Based upon that, we've been working that case. It's an ongoing investigation, but we have been working that case, and there's also been involvement with the two people who were shot yesterday by the federal officers through some criminal cases out in Washington County. So this is a regional effort as we look at this group affiliation and the potential for violence that has occurred. And it's still ongoing, so I don't have details. And what I can say is there is an association with the two folks yesterday and TDA. I hesitated to even share this information initially because I'm very aware of the historic injustice of victim blaming, oftentimes portrayed by law enforcement, including this very agency that I've represented so proudly for so many years. And historically, we have not been quick to disclose the potential criminal history of others. But I felt it was imperative because I was asked yesterday in the news conference what information we have. This is information we have. This in no way draws a through line to the actions or the behaviors that occurred yesterday. I want to speak for just a moment specifically to my Latino community. It saddens me that we even have to qualify these remarks, because I understand, or at least have attempted to understand through your voices, your concern, your fear, your anger. This information in no way is meant to disparage or to condone or support or agree with any of the actions that occurred yesterday. But it is important that we stay committed to the rule of law, that we stay committed to the facts, that we stay a trustworthy and legitimate police department for all of Portlanders. We are currently involved in this investigation with our federal partners, of which I'm very grateful for. And we have been able to assist and provide perspective and have a small area of participation as we as this investigation continues. I am proud of the relationships we have with our federal partners. We have relied upon them in many ways through the enforcement of human trafficking, fentanyl, gun violence, etc. And I have appreciated their work on a local level, and their willingness to have us engage in the investigation at this time, I think, is a demonstration of that ongoing relationship and information sharing. I believe in doing so, this will help hopefully bring some transparency to the process for Portlanders to be able to recognize. I'm also in regular communication with the district attorney and Attorney General Dan Rayfield, and their teams as well are supporting and participating in this process. When I say participating, I want to be clear. This is not a parallel investigation by the Portland Police Bureau. We are present, but we are not conducting our own independent investigation. That's not our role in this, and would not be the necessary information to do that would not be made available to us because we're dependent upon that participation and cooperation with our federal partners. But we are at the table, and we are learning as we go, and hopefully, because this is new territory for us, that once the investigation is completed, there'll be an opportunity to share that information holistically. I can't speak to that currently. So with all that, I think we're ready for a few questions.
Yeah, we'll do we have about 10 minutes or so for questions and answers. And as Chief mentioned, when it comes to the criminal group Tren de Aragua, we cannot get in to great detail about these cases because they're open and ongoing. So I just hope you keep that in mind, and also just know how the questions might resonate with our Latino community, one that obviously the Chief has a great relationship with. So with that, we'll open up to questions and answers. Please state your name, who you're with, and who the question's for. And we'll have Chief do his best to repeat the question for the cameras as well. We'll start with Maxine.
Two questions. One, the July shooting in Northeast Portland, where was that? And can you describe the circumstances? And my second question is, when Portland police arrived at the medical office after the first 911 call, were there federal officers that stayed there that police interacted with?
Okay, so question one, Max, I understand was the shooting in Northeast Dayton location, July 11th, 2025 at Northeast 81st and Mason. I don't have the reports in front of me. There's just some notes that I have, but Mike can track down, the reports or things that we need on that. In regards to our arrival at the shooting scene itself at 101 in Maine, your question was whether or not federal officers were still present upon our arrival. Is that correct? And I'm going to ask Assistant Chief Simon just to answer that question. He was out on scene yesterday. And can you answer that?
Yep. Rob Simon, the Assistant Chief of Investigations, and yes, they were still on scene when we arrived.
The Customs and Border Patrol?
Yes.
How many?
Initially, there was at least 7 or 8. Then that number quickly grew as their investigative team showed up from various other federal agencies.
And the black car that was left behind at that scene, was that belonging to the federal officers?
Since that's integral to the part of the investigation, I'm going to limit that comment and not disclose that at this time.
Adrian.
Thanks.
Chief Adrian Thomas, KPTV. I think it's important to clarify, PPD had no idea of this enforcement action by Border Patrol prior to it happening. And given everything that's happened in the last 24 hours, what's your message to federal officials if they are going to continue these types of traffic stops in terms of giving you a heads up if they're going to be in a certain area at a certain time?
Yes, so we did not have any information ahead of time. Both of these events, the shooting scene itself and then where the victims drove themselves to, were reported to us via the traditional dispatch system. It is always complex when multiple agencies are working within one jurisdiction. So this is not unique just to our federal partners, but as police officers in the state of Oregon, we have authority throughout the state. So although I'm a Portland police officer, I'm designated as a state officer, so I could go do police work in Pendleton today. Typically, when we do that, we do provide a heads up, just an awareness, so that the other agency knows what's going on, so we don't face some of these situations such as this. So, we're continuing to communicate to our federal partners that any information they can provide ahead of time so we can be aware of, to provide, a greater level of safety and security for everyone involved, we are in favor of. We certainly can't mandate that or demand that, but that is a conversation that we've been having, and sometimes it has occurred and sometimes it has not. Yesterday was one of those where it didn't.
I have 2 questions. First of all, thank you so much for this opportunity to ask some questions. One, aside from the affiliation or link to that July shooting, did these 2 individuals have any other criminal background? Had they been charged? Had they been convicted of anything? Or was it just that suspicion with that?
I have been advised that the woman was arrested for prostitution in Washington County, and that the male was present when a search warrant was served in Washington County. I don't know if they were together. I don't know if that was simultaneous, but that's the information that we've received.
And then my second question is about not just the tactics, but the rhetoric that the federal government has been using in relation to the immigration enforcement. How does that impact your ability to maintain your relationships with community members and to maintain trust?
Yeah, so the question is regarding, the messaging that we see coming from the federal government, and how does that impact our ability on a local level? And I would suggest that this is challenging, not just on the part of the federal government, but really a responsibility that we all have in how we portray these events, and particularly when it comes to law enforcement action. As I've said earlier, I'm tremendously proud of this profession, but I'm also well aware of the history of policing in our country, and some of the harms perpetrated at the hands of law enforcement, and recognizing that I want to recognize and really identify that fear and that concern that people share has legitimacy. So on the other hand, it's in a profession that is called upon daily 260,000 times or so this year. In the last year in the city of Portland were calls for service. So people look to us regularly to step into spaces that are very complex and very difficult, usually with a great deal of risk. And the men and women of the Portland Police Bureau do that with immense bravery and training and preparation. And I am so honored to be able to be a part of that with them. Anytime that we have messaging that jumps to conclusions, anytime that we make assumptions or assertions, then we are definitely putting the entire system at risk. You're putting the investigation at risk, you're putting the legitimacy and the other officers' safety at risk, and you're certainly putting the community safeties at risk. And I think this is the crux of what we're really struggling with in a lot of ways, is we are all trying to find an area of certainty, which I totally understand. We are all trying to find an area of certainty. But the reality is that many competing truths can be held at the same time. Immigration enforcement is not new to this country. There was immigration enforcement under the Biden administration. There was immigration enforcement under the Obama administration. This is not something new. The manner in which it's being done is certainly new and questionable in terms of its approach. And certainly the emphasis is new. But the reality is that this building down in South Waterfront has been around for a long time. So that's a truth, but there's also a truth in, once again, the behavior and the actions that we're seeing that's causing so much fear in our communities, not just in Portland, but around the country. That's true. There's a role for public order. There's a role for demonstrations and for protests and for an expression of that first. That's a truth. There's a role for law enforcement to be able to provide that safety and protection for all Portlanders. That's a truth. These things can all be held at the same time. And where we are losing our grip is when we hold so tightly to just our own truth, and not recognize that these others exist. And I will tell you, the Portland Police Bureau will always be committed to the rule of law, and will always be committed to recognizing these many truths and trying to balance them and hold them all lightly and honoring them all at the same time. I think that our community, our relationship with the community today is stronger than it has been in probably at least decades of my career. I am so grateful. I have been on the phone almost 24 hours, other than a slight bit of sleep, with community leaders from across the spectrum. And that's why, even sharing this information around this association is so difficult and painful for me, because I understand from what I have been told that fear that suddenly this is going to be some wholesale blaming, this wholesale approval of the actions that happened yesterday, and that is not the case. Nothing that I've said today should be warranted in any way to affirm whatever happened yesterday as part of the investigation. But it is factual information we have. It is factual information that I was asked, and I felt the need to respond.
Thanks for having us today. So both the man and the woman shot yesterday, they were both involved in that July shooting that you mentioned, and can you explain what their role was in that shooting exactly?
I cannot say that they were both involved in the shooting on July 11th. I apologize. What I'm saying is, through the investigation of the shooting on July 11th, there became a nexus to them. Whether they were involved, I do not know. As far as I am aware, they haven't been named as, suspects. They haven't been charged in it, but because of the information Portland police officers received on the July 11th incident from the victim, we then proceeded down the investigations, which led us to this information sharing with Washington County.
But they have not been confirmed as the shooters.
No, they have not been confirmed as the shooters.
And the victim who called to report the shooting, what did they say? What were the circumstances of it?
I don't have the details of that from the report. I just have been advised he was a Venezuelan immigrant. He did express to us that he believed that the people who shot at him were part of TDA.
Now that the mayor has kind of explicitly said that he does not want ICE to operate in Portland, I'm curious, how does that impact your relationship with ICE and federal agencies, if at all? I mean, are you getting direction to back away a bit?
Yeah, so the question was, with the comments from the mayor regarding having ICE out of Portland, how does that impact our relationships? And I appreciate Mayor Wilson. I appreciate his leadership. And he's been very respectful of understanding the importance that I place upon relationships with all parties involved. And so therefore, he has not given me direction otherwise to continue to be available. I've been on the phone today with some of our federal partners. We'll continue to be, throughout the course of the weekend and through this investigation. And I think that's really in the best interest of all Portlanders so that we can try to provide as much information in as timely fashion as possible.
Joey? And John?
Thanks, Chief. Joey Baca, Coin 6. The federal government's spoken a lot about this group, Tren de Aragua, on a national and international scale. Based on the facts that you've seen, like you just referenced, what kind of presence does this group have in the Portland area?
Well, we're learning more about that. We certainly can say that there is a presence. It would not appear to be as significant as maybe some have been led to believe. I don't know if AC Simon has any more on that. You've been in conversation last 24 hours, but you good with that? Yeah. So it is a regional approach. I will say I appreciate support with Washington County and the effort to try and figure out where some of these folks might be that are directly related. But we're definitely aware, definitely engaged. Even though I wasn't able to answer that question, I'm saying organizationally, we've got really skilled detectives that are working this and tracking this down.
John Adams, KDW, just to kind of build on that last question, are you familiar with any possible activities that TDA might be known as a group to be involved with specifically, either here or elsewhere that have been maybe looked into or known?
Yeah, the question is, do I have any specific knowledge of activities that TDA's been involved with, specifically locally or in the area? And I do not have anything specific more to share. What was communicated to us through the incident back in July with this victim, and as we have learned, is that oftentimes they will prey on their own Venezuelan immigrant population because they know that they have a reluctance to want to engage with law enforcement. But once again, this is something that we're getting up to speed on.
With K2, can you point us to any cases or instances of criminal activity involving Tren de Aragua? And second, do you denounce and condemn the use of force yesterday?
Two questions. Can I give a case or an example? I don't have a case for you specifically related to them. The other one is, can I condemn the use of force yesterday? No, I will not do that at this time. It's an ongoing investigation. We need to, as painful as it can be to hear these words from a police chief, we need to trust the system. And I understand how flat that can fall with so many people. Maybe I need to find a different terminology for that. But the reality is, I believe, as I see Max's eyes, I believe that this is the system that we have. It's the system that we're relying upon. It's the system that is in place. And I'm a systems thinker. I believe in the importance that not just, A equals B equals C, but that we look at it holistically. And there are so many aspects to the events of yesterday, just like there's so many aspects to the event of a police officer's actions today. Not to draw a false equivalency, the events of yesterday, not only because of seriousness, because of the effect on life, but also because of the national narrative and the intensity around it and all of the other collateral harms that we see happening. So I am going to continue to very much be committed and believe that the system can continue to work. And I have one quick example why I do that. And it was held right here in Portland, Oregon, in that building next door, where for 2 days, 3 Portland Police Command officers testified as the sole representatives for the
You've just
city
been listening
on
to
why
Portland
we
Police
did not
Chief
need
Bob
the National
Day
Guard
at a press
deployed
conference.
to the city of
He's
Portland.
talking
And
about
based
the
upon that testimony and based upon the excellent work of
Let's
Portland
listen
Police
again.
Bureau members over the course of several months, a judge agreed with and cited in her report that the credibility of the Portland Police Bureau was definitely influential in that decision. And so the very fact that National Guard did not wind up on the streets of Portland is a testament to the behaviors and the actions of the Portland Police Bureau, and it's also a testament to the system continuing to work. So I'm going to continue to ask us and encourage us, and maybe I got to find another line, Max, sorry.
Please have a few more minutes, and then the gentleman in black.
You've been listening to the Portland Police Chief Bob Day there at a press conference about the shooting of 2 people yesterday in Southeast Portland by Customs and Border Protection agent. Just to recap some of the things we heard there, he did mention that the Portland Police Bureau has investigated those 2 people who were shot yesterday and was able to confirm that they do have some connection to the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, also known as TDA. There was a shooting, he said, in July of last year in Northeast Portland. The victim in that shooting was a Venezuelan immigrant, and the suspect in that shooting is believed to have ties to that gang, TDA. He said those 2 people weren't necessarily part of the shooting, but were somehow associated with that investigation. He also mentioned that the woman arrested was arrested for prostitution, the woman who was shot was arrested for prostitution in Washington County. The man was present during a warrant that was served. So those were the 2 backgrounds they had in their police department on these 2 people who were arrested yesterday. He also confirmed these 2 are in stable condition. They do remain at a hospital, and they will be in the custody of the FBI, who is leading this investigation. He said that the Portland Police Department will be assisting as necessary, but they are not investigating what happened. We also heard Chief Day get quite emotional there. He was speaking to the Latino community in Portland, and he was saying that he was saddened that this information is in no way to support or condone what happened yesterday with that federal agent, and he wanted to make sure that people did know that. As far as the protests in Portland and the large demonstrations and voices we've heard in response to this, he said he's tremendously proud of Portlanders for having their voices heard and maintaining peace overall. There have been just a few people, 6 people, who were charged with disorderly conduct last night, and he is hoping Portlanders do continue to express their dissent in the coming days through a peaceful manner. Now, we will keep pushing to bring you all this information that we can. We will ask those questions and bring you answers as we get them. You can look for the latest anytime on our website at kgw.com and on our free TV streaming app, KGW+. We'll see you back here today at 4 o'clock. Thanks for watching.